Let's take a look at creating loops of cycles here. A very common requirement, of course, is to, take something like a walk cycle, run cycle, whatever, and to be able to repeat it over time. You can, of course, just choose to animate it yourself, but that's an awful lot of repetitive work where you're just doing the same thing over and over. As such, it's not the favoured method of the majority of animators. We have, of course, as we've seen, got a tool like Motion Mixer available to us, which makes this really easy to do. However, we've also seen that that's not without its own issues, and if what I'm wanting to do is to take this walk cycle and loop it on for a bit of space and then have the character do something else, Motion Mixer doesn't allow me a great deal of leverage in how I can, go back in and re-edit that animation. The other issue, of course, is the fact that looped animation cycles like that often have a tendency to look looped. The reason being is that they are just pure repeats of the exact same cycle. It often doesn't matter how cute or cartoony your cycle is, how much life or appeal it's got in it, if it just keeps repeating perfectly, cycle after cycle, that starts to lose something. As such, what I will often do when I am repeating out walk cycles and the like, is once I've got the basic pure repetition in, I'll go in and I'll dirty it up a bit. Shift a couple of the timings around so maybe 1 or 2 steps are a little bit quicker. Perhaps just vary up the stride length a little bit here and there. Only a small amount, of course. Or add other alterations like the character perhaps looking around, varying up the swing, the timing, or the extremities of pose on the arms, or perhaps getting the character to do something with his hands. Basically just doing an extra little bit of work on top to add a little extra dose of variation and variety into the motion. So Motion Mixer aside then, what is a good way to really, get a properly keyed repeat of a cycle like this? Well, there's pose and motion tools available in the animation toolbox. Go and check those out on the YouTube channel. You'll find that there's some really awesome quick-fire ways there of being able to repeat out motions. However, for this example, we'll look at doing it natively with Lightwave's own tools. So first of all, here we go. We've got our motion, we've got our cycle, and importantly notice that it is a complete cycle here. So you see that, of course, frames 0 and 24 there are essentially the same pose. So we're going left to right and back to left again. To be able to repeat a cycle, you need to have animated a full cycle to begin with, clearly. Also, we see that this guy's not just moving on the spot, he is, traversing through space here. And so we need to continue that traversal along. What this means is that we need to separate out different items that are doing different things. Principally, of course, his main root item here, which is driving, his whole main body around, as well as the IK root items here for the feet. Those are the things that are moving through the world's space. Those are the items that need to keep on moving forward, of course. Stuff like his arms here being in FK, that's all just a child of everything else. So the spine, the arms, the head, and so on, they are effectively animating on the spot. They're just being carried with the rest of the character. So first of all, let's pop open the new scene editor here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of my guy's controls, barring the foot IK goals there and the root item. We'll make sure to highlight everything from the viewport and just do hide, so we've only got the actual selected items there, and we can see our blocks of keys here. So what do we see? Well, we see that frame 24 here is basically the same as frame 0. So what I'm going to do is just select the entire block here from frame 24 down to frame 1, right click and go to copy, and then I'll come over to frame 25 here and just paste over like that. And there we go, that's got all of those keyframes there duplicated for us. What we see, of course, is everything looks a bit weird because whilst all the action is on those items, there is none on the top level items, but that's okay for now. We can further, if we're wanting to do some more, either repaste the existing block that we've already copied, or of course we can just, select this whole block of now 2 cycles. Come in, copy that, grab a whole new range here, come in, once again, paste over, and so now we go from 2 cycles to 4 cycles, just like that. And then you could go up to 8, 16, and so on. The other way, of course, to copy blocks in the scene editor here, select your whole block, hold down the Alt key, and then just drag. That will also, of course, copy your keys nicely and easily. Whichever way you cut it, as you can see, pretty straightforward and simple to copy out whole blocks of motion like that and repeat them. So what about these, top level items here? Well, we can do exactly the same sort of thing and then correct their Z positions as necessary. But let's take a look at how we might, for instance, do this here just using the track editor. I could grab all of these keys here, not including the first one. And in this case, of course, I have to do it item by item. So here, the first frame for that main route there, after the starter frame, is here, frame 3. So I'd want to copy all of those keys. There's the next point in the cycle, so I'd want to go 1, 2, 3 after that, and then just paste those keys. You can see, of course, what that does is to shoot my route all the way back there. But hold on a minute, let's just do it for the foot goals as well first. Here we go. We'll select all of those keyframes, copy them, repaste them there at the appropriate point in time, and of course do the same here for the other main foot goal. What we see, of course, now is that at some point in this repetition, we've got a good, copy of our motion going on there. But of course, it's the back drift there that's a problem. So we can select these 3 guys, pop open the graph editor. Let's get only their position channels, and we only want to be seeing their Z positions here. We look first at the foot floor control 1 here. We can see that that should be holding at that point. So we can just drag these down until, of course, that key there comes nice and level. So there's our flat hold. And then, of course, there it is continuing to move in Z like that. We obviously find the same for the other foot here. And we see that that has its nice flat hold just occurring there. And then we get the Z position, of course, for the main route here. And we can bring that down like this. Now, it doesn't have a flat hold, so how far exactly down is it that we should bring it? Well, the easiest way to judge is just to run out here to the end of that next cycle. And we can just judge it here in the viewport, making sure that we are getting it in about the right position, which more or less matches up with how it looked back here on frame 24. So frame 48, frame 24 there, very, very similar. The route is just a little bit jumped ahead there on my frame 48, so let's just nudge it back a tiny amount like that. And you can just judge it like this to make sure that you're getting the right rate of movement and, of course, offset forward displacement like that. So there you have it. We have this cycle repeating out for our whole character over whatever range. Clearly, you see the difference between making the copy-pastes of keyframe sets either here in the track editor versus, of course, what we did in the scene editor. It would doubtlessly have been easier and quicker just to include these top-level items when we were doing the copying in the scene editor there. The only real adjustment that we've had to make all of this work is just to get the Z positions of these 3 top items and properly offset them here in graph so as that the motion is continuing to carry forward, rather than doing a run forward, snapping back, doing a run forward, snapping back. Of course, you can use whichever editor or method you feel most comfortable with for copying and pasting blocks of keyframes. But really, this is all there is to it. The copy-paste procedures for sets of motions are very simple, very easy to do. The only thing that you have to keep an eye on is identifying your top-level items and being sure to offset them appropriately in space, which you will need to do generally in the graph editor.